This is the Lockpicker 1969, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this next episode of Interview with a Lockpicker. Today's guest is Florida Man Picks Locks. Say hello.
Hello, everyone.
So, well, I was going to ask you where you're from, but I think it's pretty obvious you're from Florida.
Hi.
So,
Yes.
when did you get into locksport?
So about 4 years ago, I had, through the YouTube algorithm, seen a lockpicking lawyer video, like I'm guessing a lot of people do, and it kind of piqued my interest. And so I mentioned something to my wife in the regards of like, hey, maybe for like Father's Day this year, getting like a lockpicking set so I can kind of see if this is something I like. And so I did. I got, one of those cheap Chinese sets from Amazon or whatever for Father's Day for my wife and kids.
Yep.
And picked the acrylic lock that came with it, and looked around the house for something to pick, and found a cheap master lock that I managed to get open relatively quickly, within 10-15 minutes, something like that. So then I kind of did some looking online and saw the Reddit, and kind of used that to see if there was any helpful early locks to pick, and so bought a couple more, like Avis 55, 45, 50 or whatever that one is, the lower level one, and took some time getting into that, but it was more of a casual thing. I was just kind of, this is neat, it's kind of a cool trick. Once I started to actually like, hey, I might want to do this a little bit more, I realized the Chinese picks didn't really suit my needs so much, so I moved up. I went and got a couple Peterson picks with some suggestions from the Reddit, and some tension tools from them, and kind of worked my way up from there a little bit.
Okay. So in our pre-interview, you mentioned eventually getting more. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I think I got in 25,000s, I got a hook 1, a gem, and a hook 7, because I knew I needed the deeper and shallower and deeper hooks depending on bidding on keys. And I had top of the keyway and some bottom of the keyway tension from them, as well as getting some more locks. I got, I worked my way all the way, I think, up to like blue, maybe purple with those. So I did the American Lock 1100, and I think some of the other ones I had, like the Ace brass locks, those kind of things. I did end up getting a couple Sparrows things, like some wrenches and followers and things like that, and practice locks from them, which it was nice. It was the cutaway. It was useful to see what was going on with security pins, but it really didn't use it very much after kind of just understanding what was going on inside the lock.
Okay.
But yeah, then after I kind of, I finally, it spent years just kind of casually lockpicking, not really worrying about it too much. But then I guess I kept getting, heard about the Discord on Reddit, and a little over a year ago, I guess I got, on that and looked on there, and it's where I was introduced to Jimmy Long's picks, and I ended up picking those up when they were available again, and I've been using those pretty much ever since.
Definitely. Yep. Did you happen to get in on any of the ones that he just released, or did you miss the?
I actually saw his announcement that he had them in stock, and I was like, I should get some more. But I was like, I already have them. I know, I could have got the thicker ones, but I didn't really want to grab them because I knew they'd probably sell out, and I didn't want somebody who had been waiting to miss out on them. So I was like, if they're still around in a couple days, I might pick up some. No, obviously they were not. So, as much as I want to say, oh man, I missed out, I have my Jimmy Longs. I'm not too concerned about getting another set right now, but yeah, at some point I'll probably pick up the other ones. I saw he has another profile on there too, so
yeah,
probably want to get that at some point.
The diamond and the gem.
The gem, yeah.
Yep. Those are nice, nicely done.
Those are very fantastic picks. Love the handles. He's done a great job with those.
Yeah. So you're a black belt second Dan, right?
That is correct. Yes. In I guess early March, I got my black belt approved, and I'm almost immediately got my second Dan since I had picked through a bunch of locks and filmed them in the process of going and getting up to the black belt level. So I just basically submitted for my second Dan day of.
Okay. So,
but yes.
How did the community come into play on your getting there?
Oh man. So when I was on Reddit, I got up to, I think maybe I don't know. I'm trying to think if I was blue or purple when I was still on Reddit before I got on Discord. But it was, you kind of just saw the outline and the belt list, and maybe some other people talking about how they got into some of the lower level locks. But there wasn't a whole lot of information on how to progress higher. But then when I got onto Discord, there's just a wealth of knowledge there, and people willing to help out and answer any questions, and it was just great. So from there, I'm pretty sure that's where I started my journey into like dimple locks, and I picked like the multi-lock junior, and then the multi-lock interactives, and I had some of the DeGard locks and Yale Superior,
Yep.
things like that I got help with through there. And that's where I got the purple and then brown. I did a gold D9 and the multi-lock interactive with serrateds. And then I was looking, where am I going to progress to? And there was kind of like a plateau there for me, I feel like, and I kind of took a long time to really get from that brown to red level. And what actually sparked it was I just kept poking around at an ASA V10 with barrels. Eventually, I managed to get that thing open before any other red belt locks. So I was like, holy crap, I got a black belt lock open. So at that point, I kind of, all right, now I need to focus on, getting at least a red. So I did. I kept plugging at it, and I ended up getting a ASA 600 with gens open, and then applying for red. I think it was November of last year.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was just because I've been just picking a bunch of different things and applying myself a little bit more. I felt like it was kind of like the light turned on there, and I managed to get open ASA Twin 6000 in December, and then the Twin 6000 with gens in January, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just opening black locks now. I guess I'm at that level, so I just kept going. I got my ASA 700 open. I got a Zeiss Icon R10 open for my final 6 black lock, and finally applied in February.
Okay. So you indicated earlier that you started about 4 years ago. So you took a break kind of from things for a bit, and what were your reasons for that?
I wouldn't say I took a break. I just didn't really push myself to progress. I was kind of like,
Okay.
I could pick these locks, and I just continued to kind of pick the same locks, when I had just some free time or just, bored. It's almost like a fidget spinner. You got comfortable picking what you could pick, and you didn't really push to do anything else. It was just kind of, it was a neat trick, but I didn't really, I guess I didn't see myself as ever getting to the level like some of the guys, with black belts or higher level belts, red belts had. So I was just like, this is kind of cool. But then once I got onto Discord and found that, and I just saw how helpful and how much everybody's like, oh yeah, you could do this. You just gotta, keep at it, keep trying, keep doing these things, maybe try this. And I just felt like everybody was supportive and helpful, and made me kind of feel like I should try a little bit more and maybe advance. So I wouldn't say I stopped. I
Okay.
didn't really
Sure.
make any effort to move up the ranks.
Okay. So what are your aspirations for your belt going forward?
So now I have got my resin bullet from Nosu or Hazardous Manufacturing, and I'm going to try to make a tip and everything in tensioner for some Alloy Classic locks.
Ah,
I
okay.
want to try to get a disc detainer. As well as I got some other locks that I still am messing with. I just received a V10 with gens graciously from Jeffrey McGarry. He's sending out for people to pick. So I'm going to try to get that thing open. I just got it yesterday or Thursday.
Ah,
So I'm poking at that. I want to pick that open and send it on to the next person. But you got a bunch of locks, still that I want to, red, black level locks I want to get open, add to my channel. I
okay.
haven't really added much there since my black
Well,
submission, but
I was just about to ask you about that. So can you talk about your channel and kind of what got you started in it, and where do you see it going from here?
well, I imagine I'm like a lot of people that didn't really care so much to start a YouTube channel until they realize that they're going to have to make videos of their pick and guts for belting.
Yep.
So that's pretty much why I started it. My first video on there, I believe, is my American Lock 1100. So I was just using it essentially for belt purposes at first, and then I realized that you're going to have to do I get more careful videos for higher level submissions.
Yeah.
Evidenced by the fact that I had a couple locks for red and black that I had to film multiple times due to gutting disasters or things leaving frame. So I just, when I started getting back into picking seriously, I decided I'm just going to go through a bunch of locks that I was pretty comfortable opening and just picking them and gutting them on film just to have that practice of keeping things in frame.
Yeah.
And so I started just filming like a bunch of stuff. So I don't know how many videos I have on my channel now, dozens of them at this point. But it's just not really necessary for belting, but it's just to, I guess, have all the locks I can essentially gut on there. I'll pick and gut so people can see how I pick them and how they look on the inside if they're interested. More of like a resource for anybody who's looking, or just for my benefit to go back and look at those, I guess.
37 videos.
Oh, there we go, 37. I don't have the motivation yet to do a channel like you where you're putting out content as good as you have been doing, or some of the other pickers. But
well, thank you.
It's very nice to see the community do that, though. I do like it. Maybe I'll have to come up with something to put on there like you are doing.
I'm trying to come up with stuff that's a little different. So, and with some consistency. So that's been the challenge.
Yeah, it's been great. You've been putting out a ton of stuff.
I'm trying. Some days are more challenging than others. So what do you do for a living?
So I'm a civil structural engineer. My work primarily consists of bridge work. We do new design for bridges, which is, I'd say, 50% of my work. But here in Florida, by the company I'm at, we got heavily into rehab, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. And so we do a lot of work for the state and for the local to look at existing structures, bridges, and do rehab projects to extend life, or emergency repairs for things like, when we have hurricanes, or if the bridge gets hit by a truck or there's a fire near it that damages it.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of maintenance stuff, field investigations, looking at existing plans, coming up with repairs. So it's got me to go to some neat places. I just was down to the Keys. I've been down to Sanibel Island, Marco Island, a lot of the island bridges, because there's significant corrosion issues out on the, with the salt water.
Yeah.
As well as being able to see some pretty cool big bridges like the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, which we do rehab on. Some of the big truss bridges up in Jacksonville we've been able to work on. So yeah, it's pretty interesting for me. Something new every day, it seems like there.
Okay, so how long you been doing that for?
I graduated college in 2007, started doing bridge work in 2009.
Oh, wow. So for a while now.
Yeah, I've been at my firm, the one I'm at now, for 14 years.
Oh, great. All right. So let me go back to locksport for just a moment. What would you say is your favorite aspect of locksport?
I like the mechanical puzzle. As an engineer, taking things apart and putting things together has always been something that's been interesting to me. From a kid, you want to see how things tick, type of thing, and you want to take it apart. You want to see what's going on inside. Hopefully you can put it all back together and it still works. So it's like when you get these fun new mechanisms on locks, it's cool to be able to take it apart, see what exactly is going on the inside, see how the key interacts with all the elements and what it does, and be able to replicate that without the key is pretty neat too. But just seeing the mechanisms, I can't think of a new lock I've got in the mail that I haven't almost immediately just taken apart to see what's going on inside. It's obviously, if I'm borrowing one, I'm a little more cautious. But when you buy one, unless it's super expensive and you don't want to risk breaking it or whatever, I want to take it apart.
So
some locks don't want to be taken apart, though.
Yeah, that's true. So were you into puzzles and all that sort of thing when you were growing up?
Oh yeah, puzzles, and even like those little puzzle boxes. Like my dad had one of those little wooden boxes that you had to like slide thing this way and lift this the way, and it always interested me. I always like to see how that stuff was, and how something simple looking can have all kinds of crazy parts inside of it. So I took apart things, and I got into building computers a little bit when I was in high school and college, where I built a PC for myself and a couple for friends. Just things like that where you got to take things apart, understand how they work, put them back together. So those kind of things I've always been interested in.
Yeah, I think growing up even before high school, I was into puzzles, especially like the Rubik's Cube, and they had this other pyramid looking puzzle. And I was just into all of that stuff and enjoyed that. I think that's what translated over to enjoying lockpicking because I do like mechanical things and figuring things out and how it all works. So, and then
Yeah,
solving it. Yeah, that was a big part too. So,
yeah.
what
Go
other
ahead.
what other hobbies do you have outside of locksport?
So my stepson plays hockey, ice hockey, which I guess most people don't expect for Florida, but our family's a pretty big hockey family, so we enjoy going to Lightning games, going to his high school hockey games, just watching hockey on TV or in the Olympics and things like that. Also, I like other sports, football, basketball. I've always been into cars.
Ah, okay.
Uh, I haven't ever really owned too many fun cars. I've had a '89 Mustang GT that I had for a while. Due to children and finances, owning all the fun cars hasn't been something I've had the pleasure of doing yet. Hopefully, as the kids get older and I have some more spending money, I'll be able to maybe have like a weekend fun car. But my brother-in-law is a mechanic, so I'll go over and pick his brains and help him out with stuff or have him help me with stuff for my cars. And then he, every once in a while, will get in something really cool to take a look at. He's worked on some C2 Corvettes
Oh,
and
wow.
old Camaros and things like that. So, hanging out with him, seeing the cars, going just to, like the local car shows, car swap meets and stuff like that, checking out vehicles.
Yeah.
With my stepson being old enough to drive, talking cars with him has been fun too. You know, when I
Yeah.
had to replace my car this past year, all the suggestions for the things I should buy from him were interesting. You should buy one of the new Corvettes. Yeah, I should, but I don't know how I'm going to drive you and your sister around in it.
Yeah, and you gonna give me a winning lottery ticket while you're at it?
Yeah, well, I'm sure he wanted me to buy it so he could drive it now that he's old enough to drive.
Isn't that how it works?
Oh yeah,
Now, I spent a lot of time in the car scene and the car racing scene, and it was a ton of fun. Definitely something I look back on very fondly, but definitely a very expensive hobby to stay in.
oh
Um,
yeah. If you think locksport's expensive, go get into cars. That'll empty your wallet a lot faster.
yeah, no kidding. Um, so, so any other hobbies that you're into?
Well, I enjoy doing stuff outside. In Florida, we have a lot of state parks with things like natural springs and hiking trails and things like that. So when we get a chance, we'll go up into northern Florida, go up there, go swimming in the springs, go tubing, just spending time outside, uh, even if it's just doing like a mini camping trip with friends and doing like campfires and hanging out and doing that kind of stuff. When the weather permits, we have some really nice weather. Well, some people would say it's really nice because it's warm. I tend to get over the hot weather real quick, but we also have a lot
Hmm.
of bugs, so
Yeah, yeah,
it's tough to, especially in the summer, go out and do a lot of that stuff.
yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna actually ask you two questions, but the first one's going to be, what's the most difficult lock you've worked on and were able to get opened?
I would say the most difficult I've worked on is probably the Goal V18. I still haven't gotten that thing open. Just getting placement on the pins for some of those pins on the side and top are just very difficult for me, at least. So that one's probably the most difficult one I've actually worked on. Well, I guess seriously, I put a pick in some things that I haven't even really considered an attempt at, but that one's probably the hardest so far. That'll probably get back on the list of things to pick here in a little while. But the hardest I've opened is probably the Acid Twin 6000 with Gens. That sidebar on the Twin 6000 to me is considerably tougher than like the V10s and the Max Plus, and I even think it might be harder than my Combi I opened. And then you add the Gen spools on top, and that was the toughest lock I've opened so far.
Okay. All right. Last question before we wrap up. Um, so, what would you say is your favorite aspect of the community at large?
Oh, by far the favorite aspect is just the wealth of knowledge that there is out there with the international, community that we have on Discord and even on Reddit. People from all over the world can share their knowledge on locks that you haven't even seen in real life. We have like the guys from France with their crazy French locks, and then you have all the Europeans have access to the ASAs and all the other European manufacturers that just have they see them on a day-to-day basis installed on buildings and homes, and then they can share their insight and even get them some of them shipped over to us, as well as American pickers and locksmiths and things. There's any question you have about pretty much any lock, seems like there's someone on the Discord at least that knows something and give you some information, some insight, and maybe even tell you where you can find one if you're really willing to open your wallet.
Did you want to give a quick shout out to anybody particular on Discord?
I'm not going to do that because I feel like I'm going to forget somebody. And,
all right.
There's just been so many helpful
Fair
people
enough.
there that I really want to thank the whole community. They've been great for everything. Without Discord especially, I don't think there was any way I would have made my journey to black. So
fair enough. So before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to say to our audience?
I just want to reiterate that I'm thankful for the community. Everybody's been so welcoming, and there's been so little hate and ugliness that you see on a lot of the other communities. So everybody, thanks a lot. You guys have been awesome. I know I'm not really that vocal on a lot of the stuff, but I'm there when people call for me or if there's any questions I can help with. But everybody else, you've been doing great. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, awesome. This has been a fun interview. I especially very much enjoyed in the pre-interview us talking a bit in more detail about cars. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think we talked about cars more than anything else.
Yeah, we did. That was fun. All right. So with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you are currently a subscriber, thank you. If you are not yet a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications and all, and hit like on this video. It does truly help us YouTubers out. And thank you for listening.